On the evening of March 14, 2007, the Riverside Commerce Bank in Charlotte, North Carolina became the scene of one of the most sophisticated bank robberies in the southeastern United States. $2.7 million vanished from a high-security vault in under 18 minutes. No forced entry, no triggered alarms, no witnesses except one woman, found bound to a chair in the center of the emptied vault, surrounded by discarded cash wrappers and open security cages. Her name was Janelle Pierce. She was 34 years old, a senior vault operations coordinator who had worked at Riverside Commerce for 9 years. She had access to every floor, every restricted area, every security protocol. And on that March evening, she was the only employee scheduled to remain in the building after closing. The robbery remained officially unsolved for over a decade. The FBI investigated. Local police followed hundreds of leads, but the mastermind behind the heist continued living quietly, moving through life with careful precision, never making a single mistake that would connect them to that night. The stolen money was never recovered. No arrests were made in the immediate aftermath. The case file grew thick with dead ends and unanswered questions. It wasn't until 2019, during a routine estate settlement following a family death, that investigators finally uncovered the truth hidden in plain sight for 12 years. What they found would rewrite everything they thought they knew about the Riverside Commerce robbery and reveal that the most obvious victim had been, all along, the most brilliant architect of the crime. Before we dive deeper into this incredible story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Janelle Pierce grew up in the Greer Heights neighborhood of East Charlotte, the second of 4 children in a working-class family. Her father drove trucks for a regional grocery distributor. Her mother worked part-time at a dry cleaner. Money was always tight, but the family was stable, grounded in church community and extended family networks that stretched back generations in Charlotte. Janelle was exceptionally intelligent. Her high school teachers remembered her as quiet, focused, and unnervingly good with numbers. She received a partial scholarship to the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, where she studied business administration with a concentration in finance. But halfway through her junior year, her father suffered a severe back injury that left him unable to work. Medical bills piled up. The family needed income immediately. Janelle dropped out of college and took the first decent-paying job she could find. In 1998, at 25 years old, she was hired as an administrative assistant at Riverside Commerce Bank, a regional institution with 17 branches across the Carolinas. The bank handled commercial accounts, real estate transactions, and safety deposit services for wealthy clients throughout the Charlotte metropolitan area. The starting salary was $32,000 a year. It was enough to help her family stabilize, but not enough to finish her degree or build the life she had envisioned for herself. Janelle was exceptional at her job. Within 2 years, she was promoted to Vault Operations Assistant. By 2003, she had become Senior Vault Coordinator, responsible for managing cash inventories, coordinating armored truck pickups, and overseeing the daily opening and closing procedures for the main vault at the headquarters branch on East Independence Boulevard. The Riverside Commerce headquarters was a 4-story building constructed in 1989. The vault occupied most of the basement level, a reinforced concrete room with 12-inch thick walls and a time-delayed combination lock manufactured by Diebold. Inside the vault were rows of security cages containing cash reserves, negotiable instruments, and safe deposit boxes for the bank's wealthiest clients. Janelle's access level was comprehensive. She knew the vault rotation schedules. She understood the timing delays built into the alarm system. She had been trained on every security protocol, every camera angle, every backup procedure. Over 9 years, she had watched armored truck schedules, observed guard shift changes, and memorized the exact sequence required to bypass certain security measures during emergency situations. She knew the bank's vulnerabilities better than anyone. By 2006, Janelle's personal financial situation had deteriorated. Her father's medical expenses continued to mount. Her younger brother had been incarcerated on drug-related charges, leaving his 2 children in the informal care of Janelle's mother, who could barely afford to feed herself. Janelle was sending money home every month, draining her savings, working overtime that never quite covered the shortfall. She was 33 years old, still living in a modest apartment in the Plaza Midwood neighborhood, driving a 12-year-old Honda Civic, watching her college friends buy homes and start families while she remained trapped in a cycle of financial obligation. It was during this period that Janelle began to study the bank with different eyes. She started documenting patterns. Which nights had minimal security presence, which vault cages were accessed most frequently, which alarm zones could be temporarily disabled during legitimate maintenance procedures. She made mental notes of every detail, storing information in her precise, analytical mind. Janelle understood that the vault's most significant vulnerability occurred during the 15-minute window after closing, when the time delay lock was set, but before the overnight security system fully activated. During this window, someone with proper credentials could access the vault without triggering the primary alarm system. The secondary motion sensors inside the vault had a documented delay of 45 seconds, a buffer designed to prevent false alarms when authorized personnel made last-minute deposits. She also knew that on Wednesday nights, the vault contained the highest cash reserves of the week, accumulating deposits from multiple branches before the Thursday morning armored truck pickup. But Janelle couldn't execute the robbery alone. She needed people she could trust absolutely, people who would follow her plan precisely and never speak about it afterward. She found them in her family. Her older cousin, Devin Pierce, was 37, a former Army logistics specialist who had served in Kuwait and Iraq before returning to Charlotte in 2004. Devin was intelligent, disciplined, and frustrated by his inability to find decent work after military service. He was driving forklifts at a warehouse distribution center, making barely enough to support his wife and daughter. Her younger cousin, Terrence Blackwell, was 29, mechanically gifted, working as an HVAC technician. Terrence had always been the family's problem solver, the one who could fix anything, rewire anything, figure out any system. Janelle approached them separately in the summer of 2006. She didn't reveal her full plan immediately. She tested their interest carefully, discussing hypotheticals, assessing their desperation and their willingness to take extraordinary risks. By September 2006, all 3 were committed. The planning took 6 months. Janelle was meticulous. She created no written records, sent no emails, made no phone calls that could be traced. Every discussion happened in person, during family gatherings, during casual visits that appeared entirely normal to outside observers. Janelle mapped out every step of the operation. Devin would handle logistics and timing. Terrence would manage the technical aspects, including temporary disabling of specific camera feeds. Janelle would provide access, detailed vault layout, and precise instructions on which cages to target. The key to the plan was misdirection. Janelle would be present during the robbery, appearing as a victim. She would be restrained, found by authorities, interviewed as a witness. The investigation would initially focus on finding the unknown perpetrators, while the 3 conspirators remained hidden in plain sight, connected only by family bonds that appeared entirely innocent. They chose March 14, 2007, a Wednesday evening when Janelle was legitimately scheduled to work late, completing quarterly inventory reports. Devin and Terrence would enter the building using a service entrance that Janelle would leave accessible, dressed in dark clothing and ski masks. They would move quickly to the vault, where Janelle would be waiting. She would be tied to a chair using pre-cut restraints that would leave convincing marks, but allow her to free herself if necessary. The robbery would take less than 20 minutes. The most crucial element was the timing. Janelle had calculated that they had exactly 18 minutes from the moment they entered the vault until the delayed alarm system would trigger a silent notification to the security monitoring company. The security company's protocol required them to attempt phone contact with the bank before dispatching police, adding another 4 to 6 minutes. By the time authorities arrived, Devin and Terrence would be gone, and Janelle would be discovered as the apparent victim. They rehearsed the plan mentally dozens of times. Janelle walked her cousins through every step, every contingency, every potential problem. They purchased supplies carefully over several months, buying items from different stores with cash, leaving no pattern. On the afternoon of March 14, 2007, Janelle arrived at work as usual. She wore her standard business casual attire, carried her regular lunch, behaved exactly as she did every Wednesday. At 5:30, the other employees left for the day. The branch manager departed at 5:45, setting the front door alarms as he exited. Janelle was alone in the building. At 6:15, she walked to the service entrance on the building's east side and disabled the magnetic lock from inside. She left the door accessible but closed. Then she returned to the vault area and waited. Devin and Terrence had parked 3 blocks away in a public lot near the Independence Boulevard shopping plaza. They wore dark jeans, black hooded sweatshirts, and ski masks. They carried 2 empty duffel bags and a roll of duct tape. Terrence carried a small toolkit containing wire cutters and a voltage meter. At 6:27, they entered the building through the service entrance Janelle had left open. The interior hallways were dimly lit by emergency lighting. They moved quickly toward the basement stairs, their footsteps muffled by industrial carpet. They found Janelle waiting near the vault entrance. She had already entered the time delay combination and opened the main vault door. The massive steel door stood ajar, revealing rows of metal cages inside. Terrence immediately moved to a junction box near the vault entrance and used his wire cutters to temporarily disable 2 camera feeds that covered the vault interior. The cameras would show static for approximately 20 minutes before automatically resetting. To security monitors, it would appear as a brief technical malfunction, common enough in older systems that it wouldn't trigger immediate alarm. Devin used the duct tape to bind Janelle's wrists and ankles to a rolling desk chair positioned inside the vault. He was careful to make the restraints appear secure, while ensuring they weren't tight enough to cause injury or prevent her eventual escape. A strip of tape was placed loosely over her mouth. Then they went to work. Janelle had given them specific instructions. Row 4, cages 7 through 11. These cages contained bulk cash reserves from branch deposits, stacked in Federal Reserve wrappers, already counted and documented. The cash was destined for the Thursday morning armored truck pickup. Devin and Terrence moved with military efficiency. They used bolt cutters on the cage locks, working rapidly through the thin metal. They filled the duffel bags with bundled currency, taking only wrapped stacks, leaving loose bills behind. They were selective, professional, fast. The vault was eerily quiet except for the sound of metal cutting and the rustle of cash being transferred. Janelle sat motionless in the chair, watching her cousins execute the plan exactly as she had designed it. At 6:39, 12 minutes after entry, Terrence glanced at his watch. They were ahead of schedule. The bags were nearly full. $2.7 million in bundled 20s, 50s, and 100s. At 6:41, they finished loading the final stacks. Devin looked at Janelle. She nodded slightly. Everything was proceeding perfectly. Terrence pulled out a disposable camera and took a single photograph. The image captured Janelle bound to the chair, cash scattered on the floor around her, both men visible in masks in the background. It was Janelle's idea, a piece of staged evidence that would later be leaked to create confusion and public interest. At 6:43, Devin and Terrence exited the vault. They moved quickly back through the hallways toward the service entrance. At 6:45, they were outside the building, walking casually toward their parked vehicle. They loaded the duffel bags into the trunk and drove away at normal speed, heading north on Independence Boulevard toward the Plaza Midwood neighborhood. Inside the vault, Janelle waited. At 6:46, the delayed alarm system triggered its silent notification to the security monitoring company. At 6:48, the monitoring company attempted to call the bank's main line. No answer. At 6:50, they called Janelle's office extension. No answer. At 6:52, the monitoring company dispatched Charlotte Mecklenburg police to the bank for a welfare check and possible security breach. At 6:55, Janelle carefully worked her wrists free from the loosely applied duct tape. She removed the tape from her mouth. She positioned herself back in the chair, rewrapping the tape loosely around her wrists to appear still restrained. She scattered additional cash wrappers around the floor. She knocked over a small filing cabinet to create evidence of struggle. At 7:03, police officers arrived at the Riverside Commerce Bank headquarters. They found the service entrance door ajar. They entered cautiously, calling out, receiving no response. They made their way to the basement level and discovered Janelle Pierce bound to a chair inside the open vault, surrounded by emptied security cages and scattered cash wrappers. Officers immediately freed Janelle and called for paramedics and detectives. She appeared shaken, disoriented, struggling to speak. She told them that two masked men had entered the building shortly after closing, confronted her near the basement stairs, forced her into the vault, tied her to the chair, and robbed the bank while she watched helplessly. She described the men as average height, average build, wearing dark clothing and ski masks. She said they spoke very little, communicated mostly through gestures. She estimated they were inside the vault for 15 to 20 minutes. She said she never saw their faces. The FBI was contacted immediately. Bank robbery involving over $2 million required federal jurisdiction. By 9 that evening, Special Agent Raymond Chen from the FBI's Charlotte Field Office had arrived on scene to begin coordinating the investigation. The initial assessment was straightforward. This was a sophisticated inside job. The robbers had used legitimate access to enter the building. They knew exactly where to find the highest value cash. They understood the alarm timing and camera coverage. They moved with professional efficiency. Janelle Pierce was the obvious focal point of suspicion. But Agent Chen and his team found no immediate evidence connecting her to accomplices. Her phone records showed normal family and friend contacts. Her bank accounts contained no unusual deposits or withdrawals. Her personal life appeared unremarkable. She had no criminal record, no known associates with criminal backgrounds, no red flags that would indicate involvement in organized crime. The photograph taken inside the vault was recovered from a disposable camera found discarded in a dumpster 2 blocks from the bank. It showed Janelle clearly restrained, 2 masked figures in the background. Forensic analysis confirmed it was taken inside the Riverside Commerce Vault during the robbery. The image would later be leaked to media, becoming the only visual evidence of the crime. Investigators interviewed Janelle repeatedly over the following weeks. She remained consistent in her account. She expressed trauma, confusion, helplessness. She cooperated fully with polygraph examinations, though results were inconclusive. She allowed searches of her apartment, her vehicle, her family members' homes. Nothing incriminating was found. The FBI expanded their investigation. They examined recent terminations and disgruntled employees. They researched organized crime groups operating in the Charlotte area. They analyzed security footage from surrounding businesses. They tracked armored truck schedules and interviewed drivers. They followed up on dozens of tips from the public. Every lead faded into nothing. The reality was that Janelle, Devin, and Terrence had planned too carefully. They had created no digital trail, no financial evidence, no witnesses, no connections that could be proven. The money had been divided immediately after the robbery and hidden in separate locations that appeared entirely innocent. Devin had buried his share in waterproof containers in the backyard of his rental house, beneath a garden shed he built himself. Terrence had hidden his portion inside the walls of his mother's house during a legitimate renovation project he was completing. Janelle had stored her share in a storage unit rented under a false name, paying cash for the rental fees years in advance. None of them touched the money immediately. For the first 2 years after the robbery, Janelle, Devin, and Terrence lived exactly as they had before. Same jobs, same routines, same financial struggles. They gave investigators nothing to discover. Janelle continued working at Riverside Commerce Bank. This was perhaps the boldest aspect of her plan. Rather than quit and draw suspicion, she remained employed, expressing determination not to let the trauma destroy her career. Her colleagues admired her resilience. Management supported her recovery. She received counseling through the bank's Employee Assistance Program. She was the perfect victim. By 2009, the active investigation had stalled. The FBI maintained an open file, but resources were redirected to newer cases. The stolen $2.7 million remained unrecovered. No arrests had been made. Internally, investigators remained convinced Janelle Pierce had been involved, but they lacked evidence to pursue charges. Janelle was patient. She understood that the greatest danger lay in becoming complacent, in believing she had gotten away with it. She maintained her cover for years, living modestly, never displaying wealth, never deviating from the careful persona she had constructed. In 2011, she finally left Riverside Commerce Bank, taking a similar position at a credit union in Gastonia, a small city west of Charlotte. The move appeared natural, a fresh start after years of being associated with the robbery. She rented a small house, continued driving modest vehicles, maintained a low profile. Devin and Terrence were equally disciplined. Devin eventually left the warehouse job and started a small landscaping business, a legitimate enterprise that provided cover for gradually improving his standard of living. Terrence opened an HVAC repair company, slowly building a client base. Both men moved carefully, spending the stolen money in small increments over many years, always maintaining plausible explanations for any improvements in their circumstances. They met occasionally at family gatherings, careful never to discuss the robbery, never to acknowledge what they had done. To outside observers, they were simply cousins who remained close, families that supported each other through difficult times. The psychological toll was significant, though they rarely spoke about it. Janelle sometimes lay awake at night replaying the robbery, wondering if she had overlooked some detail that would eventually surface. Devin became more withdrawn, struggled with nightmares about police raids and prison. Terrence developed anxiety that manifested as obsessive checking behaviors, constantly ensuring his hidden money remained undiscovered. But they maintained discipline. They never confessed, never hinted, never made mistakes. Years passed. The Riverside Commerce robbery became a cold case, occasionally mentioned in true crime documentaries and unsolved mysteries forums, but largely forgotten by the general public. Then, in February 2019, Devin Pierce died suddenly of a heart attack at age 50. He was at home watching television when he collapsed. Paramedics were unable to revive him. He was pronounced dead at Carolina Medical Center at age 50. Devin's wife, Michelle, was devastated. They had been married for 23 years. They had raised a daughter together. Devin had been the steady presence in their family, the provider, the problem solver. Michelle faced the overwhelming task of settling Devin's affairs. There was no will. The landscaping business had modest assets. The house was rented, not owned. Devin had been private about finances, telling Michelle he was saving money for their retirement, but she had never pressed for details. In March 2019, while cleaning out the garden shed in their backyard, Michelle discovered something that would unravel everything. Beneath a false floor she had accidentally broken through while moving equipment, Michelle found 3 waterproof plastic containers buried in the dirt. She opened them, confused, expecting tools or forgotten supplies. Inside were bundles of cash, hundreds of bundles, wrapped in deteriorating Federal Reserve paper, $20 bills, $50 bills, $100 bills. Michelle sat in the shed, surrounded by nearly $900,000 in aging currency, and tried to understand what she was seeing. She initially thought Devin had been involved in something illegal, perhaps drug dealing or money laundering. But the money was old, the wrappers faded, the bills sequential in a way that suggested they came from a single source years earlier. She called her brother, who worked in banking, and described what she had found without revealing the amount. Her brother told her immediately to contact authorities. Hidden cash of that magnitude was never innocent. Michelle Pierce called the FBI on March 18, 2019, and reported finding a large sum of currency buried in her deceased husband's property. Special Agent Raymond Chen, who had worked the original Riverside Commerce investigation, was contacted. He drove to Michelle Pierce's house that afternoon. When Chen saw the buried cash, saw the Federal Reserve wrappers with date codes from 2006 and 2007, saw the sequential bill patterns, he immediately understood what he was looking at. This was the Riverside Commerce money. The FBI obtained warrants and began comprehensive investigation into Devin Pierce's background. They discovered his family connection to Janelle Pierce. They examined bank security footage from 2007 with fresh eyes, looking specifically for similarities between Devin's build and gait and the masked figures in the vault photograph. They interviewed Michelle extensively. She told them everything she knew about Devin's cousin Janelle, about family gatherings, about the landscaping business that had gradually grown more successful over the years. Within days, investigators had developed probable cause. On March 25, 2019, FBI agents executed search warrants at Janelle Pierce's home in Gastonia and at Terrence Blackwell's residence in Charlotte. At Janelle's house, they found another storage location. Hidden inside a false bottom in her bedroom closet were bundles of cash totaling approximately $850,000. At Terrence's mother's house, agents used ground-penetrating radar to locate hidden compartments in the walls. They recovered approximately $920,000. On March 26, 2019, Janelle Pierce and Terrence Blackwell were arrested and charged with bank robbery, conspiracy, and theft of federal funds. Both were denied bail. The arrests made national news. The grainy photograph from inside the vault circulated again, this time with new context. The woman tied to the chair, the victim who had maintained her innocence for 12 years, was revealed as the mastermind of the entire operation. The case proceeded to federal court in Charlotte. Janelle and Terrence both faced overwhelming evidence: the recovered money, the family connections, the timeline. the technical knowledge required for the robbery. Prosecutors argued that Janelle had orchestrated a sophisticated crime and lived among investigators for over a decade, hiding in plain sight. In October 2019, facing life imprisonment, both Janelle Pierce and Terrence Blackwell accepted plea agreements. They provided full confessions detailing the planning, execution, and aftermath of the robbery. They admitted that Devin Pierce had been the third conspirator. In January 2020, Janelle Pierce was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Terrence Blackwell received 15 years. Both were ordered to pay restitution, though the recovered money totaled only approximately $2.6 million of the original $2.7 million stolen. The remaining $100,000 was never accounted for, likely spent gradually over the years. The Riverside Commerce robbery case was finally closed after 13 years. The story raises profound questions about desperation, intelligence, and the psychological capacity to maintain deception over time. Janelle Pierce was not a career criminal. She was a woman trapped by circumstances, gifted with analytical intelligence, who made a calculated decision to solve her problems through crime. For 12 years, she lived with the weight of that decision. She went to work, interacted with colleagues, participated in her community, all while knowing that beneath her ordinary life lay a secret that could destroy everything. The case also revealed critical vulnerabilities in bank security protocols. Riverside Commerce Bank completely overhauled its vault access procedures following the robbery. The 15-minute delay window was eliminated. Camera systems were upgraded to redundant digital monitoring. Personnel policies were changed to ensure no single employee could access high-security areas alone. Similar changes were implemented across the banking industry. The Riverside Commerce robbery became a case study in security training programs, illustrating how insider knowledge combined with patience and planning could defeat even sophisticated protection systems. Janelle Pierce remains incarcerated at Federal Correctional Institution Aliceville in Alabama. She is eligible for release in 2032 when she will be 59 years old. In prison interviews, she has expressed remorse not for the robbery itself, but for the impact on her family, particularly her mother and siblings who were devastated by the revelation. She has also stated that she would make different choices if given the opportunity, though she has been careful not to specify what those choices would be. Terrence Blackwell is serving his sentence at Federal Correctional Institution Edgefield in South Carolina. He has been a model inmate, participating in educational programs and maintaining a clean disciplinary record. Michelle Pierce, Devin's widow, received no criminal charges. Investigators concluded she had no knowledge of the robbery and had acted appropriately upon discovering the hidden money. She has since moved away from Charlotte and declined all media interviews. The single photograph from inside the vault, showing Janelle bound to a chair with cash scattered around her, has become iconic in true crime circles. It represents the ultimate misdirection, the perfect disguise. The victim who was never a victim. The crime that went unsolved not because it was too complex to crack, but because the most obvious suspect had created a flawless cover story and maintained it with unwavering discipline. In the end, it was death that unraveled the perfect crime. Not investigation, not forensic breakthrough, not confession. Simply the unexpected heart attack of a 50-year-old man, followed by a grieving widow cleaning out a garden shed. Janelle Pierce knew the bank too well. She understood its systems, its vulnerabilities, its rhythms. She planned her crime with meticulous care and executed it with precision. She evaded one of the most intensive FBI investigations in Charlotte history, but she couldn't account for chance. She couldn't plan for the human heart's fragility. She couldn't predict that 12 years of perfect silence would be shattered by buried money discovered in grief. She was tied to a chair as $2.7 million vanished. And for 12 years, everyone believed exactly what she wanted them to believe. Until the day the truth emerged from beneath a garden shed floor, wrapped in deteriorating paper, waiting silently to reveal everything.